Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at another buffed Pokemon from the Season 25 balance update, and that is the buff to Licky. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, PB Potato, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Licky's Shadow Ball did get cheaper this season, meaning that it's only 4 rollouts to get the Shadow Ball. This is a large pacing buff for Licky, and with its combination of Rollout, Body Slam, and Shadow Ball, it honestly ends up being an extremely safe Pokemon that can help anchor a lot of open Great League teams. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. Hopping to the first match, picking up a very neutral lead Goodra against Gastradon. Now, both of these Pokemon can't really do a lot of charge attack damage to each other. Goodra is spamming out non-stab Aqua Tails, and for Gastradon is returning fire with non-stab Body Slams. So, not a lot of charge move pressure, but considering there's a Lucario in the back, Potato has to be very happy to catch this Gastradon on the lead. Hopefully, Goodra can neutralize it and set up that Lucario for success. But Gastradon puts up a shield, preserving its HP. That is a bit of a problem. Potato is going to be shielding back. He will make it to a second Aqua Tail. And now the opponent has to decide, is it really worth double shielding the lead? And they say yes. They double shield the Gastrodon. In comes Licky. Unfortunately, Licky does get the one turn to bring in. So Licky does not get the rollout sneak that it should. Water Pulse is going to land. Licky gets the Body Slam. No catch from the opponent. So they're more than happy just to let the Gastrodon get KO'd. Opponent brings in their own Licky. Quick switch by Potato into the Lucario. And this Lucario is running a very interesting moveset. It is running Power Up Punch and Aura Sphere, so sacrificing coverage in the name of efficiency. Aura Sphere is going to hit for some massive damage into the Mandibuzz, and the good news here is a Shadow Ball from the Mandibuzz. It's going to do a lot of damage, but importantly, it will not be able to take the knockout. But they're actually running Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace not going to land as there's a beautiful catch onto the Licky. Licky more than happy to absorb that Aerial Ace and just look to farm up. These rollouts are adding up at the back-to-back Body Slams. There's a catch from the opponent as they catch onto their own Licky. Body Slam is going to do a little bit of chip damage there, and already 2 more Body Slams locked and loaded. Now these Body Slams, they don't do a lot of damage, but Licky is able to get to so many of them that Licky will actually be able to just take the KO. Down goes the opponent's Licky. In comes Mandibuzz. They realize there is not a win con, and they are going to be immediately resigning the match. We move to the next match, leading Goodra into Gorgggeist. A bit of an interesting lead matchup, as obviously Gorgggeist Incinerate is going to be resisted, but Goodra's charge attacks are also going to be resisted as well. Goodra farms up a ton of energy and gets a devastating Shadow Ball catch onto Licky. That's a huge waste of energy for the opponent, and now out comes Paldean Tauros. This is an incredibly cool spice pick from the opponent. Shadow Ball is going to inflict massive damage onto the Tauros. Tauros farm it up and will either look to boost itself up with Trailblaze or go for Aqua Jet. They go for the Aqua Jet. It does not knock out, and the threat of a Body Slam actually forces Tauros to throw again. Tauros fires off the back-to-back Aqua Jets, and now back in comes Goodra. Goodra going to go for an Aqua Tail. Aqua Tail is going to be resisted, but the goal is to try and get a farm down after. So now Goodra exits with as much residual energy as possible. Back in comes the Gorgggeist. Gorgggeist going to be hit with the Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch does do slightly more damage than an Aqua Tail, but not by much. Goodra continuing to farm up even more energy, already at back-to-back Aqua Tails. Aqua Tail is going to land. Goodra winning charge attack priority over that Gorgggeist, really trying to ramp up the pressure onto the opponent. And it works. Shield gets used. Goodra's going to be no shielding. It's all up to Lucario to close out this game. But no, the opponent ends up Seed Bomb baiting. Goodra's still alive, and suddenly, Goodra's shielding. There's the Shadow Ball. In the back is Greninja, and things are looking pretty good here. However, Greninja energy management could make life a little bit tricky. Thunder Punch is going to be shielded. Oh my goodness, is that a Night Slash catch? They should have thrown the Night Slash, and it is. Oh my goodness, catch after catch in this game. Absolutely devastating. Greninja fires off energy. The shield comes up from Lucario. It is the Hydro Cannon, and Lucario gets the Power-Up Punch. This is super effective damage onto Greninja. Greninja gets KO'd. Gorgggeist gets farmed down. All that's left is Tauros in the back, and the opponent is going to resign the match. We move to the next match. Goodra into Wigglytuff, a truly terrible lead. One Dragon Breath and a safe switch to Licky. Licky can do pretty well against the Wigglytuff, as Licky is able to lock in some damage with Body Slam before an Icy Wind debuff gets applied. But no, disaster strikes. Out comes Gastradon. Gastradon is going to be able to absorb these neutral Shadow Balls. Not a lot of things can absorb these Shadow Balls neutrally, but Gastradon is one of them. And unfortunately, Gastradon just smacks away, and there's not a whole lot Licky can do. Licky lands Shadow Ball number 2, looking to overfarm, trying to get to a third, but Gastradon says no, firing off the Stone Edge. Stone Edge takes the knockout. In comes Lucario. Opponent pivots into the Wigglytuff. Oh no! The accidental switch into the Goodra. Thought about top lefting, decided against it. Icy Wind lands. Goodra is going to try and play out this game. Goodra fires off the Thunder Punch at the Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff is going to be no shielding. Wigglytuff gets that farm down, and in comes Lucario. Unfortunately, Lucario is going to be hit with a charge attack from the Wigglytuff. The shield comes up on the Swift because Lucario is going to need HP. In the back is Spiritomb, and I was expecting to see a Mud Slapper, so at the very least, it's not an immediate game over, but Spiritomb no shields to power up punch. In comes Gastradon. Gastradon will be firing off the Flamethrower. These boosted bullet punches are starting to add up onto the Gastradon. Lucario continuing the farm. Can Lucario get the full farm down? Yes! Lucario exits with 100 energy. Back in comes the Spiritomb. Spiritomb gonna be hit with the Aura Sphere. Spiritomb tries to call the power-up punch, and this could be a win. Lucario farms down the Spiritomb. This trainer baited the top left, decided against it, and managed to claw their way back and secure the win. We move to the next match, Goodra into Shadow Marowak. At the very least for Goodra, Aqua Tail will be hitting for super effective damage here. It's still an Aqua Tail, so it's not going to do a ton of damage, but at the very least, Marowak feels threatened and will put up a shield. Looks like Goodra did win charge attack priority over the Marowak there. Aqua Tail number 2 is going to be double shielded from the opponent, and this is a very easy no shield for the Goodra. Bone Club is going to land, Goodra is going to get farmed down, but now it's time for the ever-dependable Licky to absorb energy. But the opponent says no, they're going to be bringing out Steelix. Steelix firing off Psychic Fangs, and the shield comes up from Lucario. This very well could be a Marowak Steelix Gastradon team. I have seen that team quite a few times. Lucario farms up to the Aura Sphere, winning charge attack priority over the Steelix. Unfortunately, a Mud Slap landing would be absolutely catastrophic. In comes Marowak. Look at the damage. Oh my goodness, Lucario barely hanging on. Aura Sphere takes the KO, and it was the team that I was fearing. It's the Gastradon in the back. Unfortunately, Lucario, because it took that Mud Slap, it was too low. It couldn't get meaningful damage onto the Gastradon. And now Licky is going to have to try and close out this game. That's a very tall task. Obviously, rollout is going to be resisted, whereas Gastradon has very consistent neutral damage. But Licky is going to keep at it. It's very bulky, spamming out these Shadow Balls. It does have a pacing advantage. Can it overcome the demon that is Gastradon? Shadow Ball reached on charge attack priority. This means Gastradon is going to be landing that Stone Edge. And that Stone Edge, Licky, I think it can hang on, but not by much. Licky gonna be hit with the Stone Edge. Licky deep into the red. Licky gets the Shadow Ball. Will this be enough? It has to be enough. Shadow Ball, Gastradon. No, the 1 HP survive, and that game will unfortunately end in a tie. Goodra versus Florist in the next match. Not a great start. A safe switch into Licky, and the opponent actually throws on very poor timing as they fire off the Chilling Water. The correct play as Florist is to throw on 6. They ended up throwing on 5, which means that Licky just gets a rollout for free. Shadow Ball is shielded up by the Primeape. Primeape respecting the damage from Licky, even though it has been debuffed. Licky always going to be no shielding, as an Ice Punch will not take a knockout, and if they close combat, then they're just going to be debuffed. But considering there's a Lucario in the back, this is actually a very nice bait out. In comes Goodra. Goodra gonna be no shielding. Ice Punch will do quite a lot of damage, but Goodra knows a Florist awaits it. Back in comes the Florist. Florist will look for a full farm down, and Goodra will fire off a last-second Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch is gonna be shielded up. The opponent actually respects the Sludge Wave. Oh my goodness. Thunder Punch number 2 is going to land. They were very afraid of the Sludge Wave, as obviously we saw from the Thunder Punch damage, 2 Thunder Punches would not knock out, but a Sludge Wave would have been devastating. And what a catch. Shielding 1, catching the 2nd. The gameplay just absolutely exquisite. Undercharge from the opponent. They want energy on the Primeape. In comes Lucario, unable to get the farm down. The undercharge pays dividends for the opponent as Primeape burns the final shield. It's Lucario versus the world, and it's Galarian Moltres in the back. Power-Up Punch plus Aura Sphere is loaded. Will the opponent be able to get a catch? Power-Up Punch is going to land. No catch comes through. It's a CMP tie, and Lucario will win it. Aura Sphere lands. Down goes Galarian Moltres. In comes Florist. Florist gets Bullet Punch down. These games are absolutely hectic, but man, they are incredibly fun. Tricky lead in the next match. Goodra into Shadow Scizor. Goodra obviously has a pacing advantage, getting to the Aqua Tail before the Night Slash is reached. But the bad news for Goodra is that these bullet punches are absolutely shredding. In comes Licky, gonna be answered with a Credilli. Now this is a matchup where it evens. Licky does not do the greatest. However, if Licky gets up a little bit of energy, then Licky can make life a little bit uncomfortable. Credilli will fire off the Rock Tomb, sizable damage to the Licky, which will immediately return fire with a -1 Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to land, getting that Credilli low. Unfortunately, Switch Timer was not available, unable to snipe it down with Lucario. Credilli will be able to take the knockout with the Rock Tomb, but now it's time. Lucario gets a 2-bullet punch head start. In the back is Azumarill. Lucario farming up a ton of energy and going for a power-up punch. Lucario needs to boost up its damage because all of its charge attacks are going to be resisted. Opponent makes a nice no-shield call, but then they end up throwing on alignment. So a free bullet punch to Lucario. Lucario will absolutely take it. The opponent has correctly identified that they only have to go for Ice Beams. Lucario is that frail. +1 Aura Sphere shielded up by the Azumarill. What a catch! Sacrificing the Goodra to set up Lucario to sweep. Ice Beam lands. That does do some pretty significant damage. In comes Shadow Scizor. But guess what, Scizor? You do not win that charge attack priority tie. Lucario's Aura Sphere KOs the Scizor. Back in comes the Azumarill. But Lucario, smelling blood in the water, gets to this Aura Sphere, and it's too little too late for Azumarill. They do not have the HP. Aura Sphere KOs, and that's a good game. We move to the next match. Goodra into Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye, one of my favorite Pokemon for this season. Its damage output is just absolutely ridiculous. Goodra does have a pacing head start though. Goodra able to land the Aqua Tail and make a very nice catch and sneak onto Licky. Licky more than happy to absorb that damage. Out comes Shadow Impolon. Shadow Impolon knows it can survive a Shadow Ball, but this is definitely going to hurt. Shadow Ball lands. Impolon now very close to red HP, and Impolon will look to take the knockout with Hydro Cannon. It's the Shadow Hydro Cannon, so it will actually KO, and now in comes Goodra. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of fast move pressure available into the Impolon. In comes Lucario. Lucario gonna try for the bullet punch down, and unfortunately cannot get there. The Impolon hangs on 1 HP, gets a shield, and in the back is Shadow Scizor. The opponent rocking a double steal strategy behind that Sableye. The power-up punch bait is a successful one. Lucario getting to a second power-up punch and winning charge attack priority over the Shadow Scizor. Power-up punch is going to be no-shielded. That does do quite a lot of damage. At this point, Lucario has to commit. It's all about the fast move pressure. These bullet punches adding up. Lucario gets that farm down. In comes the Sableye. Sableye gets farmed. In comes Goodra. Goodra, oh no. Shadow Sableye, 1 HP survive. They get the foul play. That was almost another miracle win, but unfortunately the opponent just had a little bit too much health remaining on that Sableye. Tricky lead in the next match. Goodra into Impolon. Goodra's gonna farm up, go for an Aqua Tail bait just for the opponent to catch and sneak onto the Gorgggeist. A devastating play from the opponent. Goodra's gonna farm back up, and Goodra now gets the catch of the Shadow Ball onto Licky. Oh my goodness, this game off to an absolutely explosive start with catches left and right. Licky's gonna look to end Gorgggeist with a Shadow Ball. Gorgggeist no shields and gets KO'd. Back in comes the Shadow Impolon. Shadow Impolon almost at the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and it's gonna need both if it doesn't want the Shadow Ball to land. Opponent now makes a catch onto Clefable, but this poor Clefable is not gonna know what hit it. In comes Bullet Punch Lucario. These bullet punches shredding the Clefable. Clefable makes a last-second Moonblast, but Lucario more than happy to put up the shield, as Moonblast would have been deadly. Lucario instantly under-tapping the power-up punch as Impolon will hit the field. These bullet punches are double resisted, but it's all about getting whatever damage you can. It looks like the opponent may have actually CMP tied there, and if they did CMP tie, that's going to be game over whether they shield or not. They end up no shielding, and that's going to cost them, as Lucario is going to get a little bit of extra fast move pressure, but from here, Goodra will be able to close it out. In comes the Goodra. Goodra going to get to farm up to the back-to-back Aqua Tails. Opponent realizes there's no path forward, and they will concede the match. Hopping to the final match, Goodra into Dublade. This could be a little bit tricky. Now, I am on the record as saying I do not believe in Dublade. I don't think it's a good Go Battle League mon. The jury's still out on whether it could be good for the competitive series, but for the Go Battle League, I just think Dublade simultaneously doesn't do a lot of damage, and also simultaneously is very glassy. I feel like most of the time, if a Pokemon is glassy, it at least outputs a lot of damage. But it feels like Dublade is in this weird middle ground where it doesn't really do anything well. I'm well aware that it has an unbelievably good typing, but man, I really feel like when I tried it out, I was not impressed whatsoever. It honestly felt very, very mediocre. Down goes Dublade, in comes a Azumarill, and Lucario's gonna bank a ton of energy. In comes Licky to be answered with the Guzzlord. Licky gonna be spamming out neutral damage, body slam after body slam, as Guzzlord looks to connect with Brutal Swings. If Guzzlord had Dragon Claw, this could be catastrophic, but most run Brutal Swing plus Sludge Bomb. So instead, they're just gonna be spamming out a lot of Brutal Swings. Licky's already at 2 more body slams. Body slam number 1 is gonna connect. Not gonna throw body slam number 2 right away. Instead, just gonna look to absorb this Brutal Swing. Switch timer's up. In comes Lucario, and Lucario's looking to ramp up with Power Up Punch. Power Up Punch, no shielded by the Guzzlord, it's all up to Azumarill. The bait from Lucario, if the opponent calls this would end the game on the spot, but they put up the shield. Can Lucario do this? Lucario's now +2. Lucario going for the Aura Sphere. Will the opponent try to call the Power Up Punch? They do! The Aura Sphere lands, and Lucario has done enough damage that Licky will be able to close out this game. The rollout goes through, Ice Beam gets shielded, Licky gets that farm down. That game did not look winnable, but Potato finds a way and gets the win. All in all, big thank you to Potato for sending in this footage, as these games were absolutely wild. Even though it was Lucario that ended up taking a lot of endgame sweeps with his unusual Lucario moveset, I do feel like Licky was a real MVP on this team as well. Licky's neutral dependability is really essential if you're going to run something glassy, like a Lucario for example, because Pokemon like Lucario, you have to be very precise with energy management, try and make catches, not let charge attacks land on that Pokemon, and to do so, you need some really dependable teammates, and that's where something like a Licky comes in. Licky's probably not going to be the featured Pokemon in a lot of videos, but I think it's going to be in a lot of videos just as a supporting cast member, and that's because of its neutral dependability. Licky's an amazing Pokemon to use to reposition if you're ever in a bad matchup, safe switching it in, use it to absorb hits, potentially try and get one of your glass cannon sweepers on the field if your opponent ends up throwing all their energy and they don't really have a lot of residual energy. I think Licky is very strong with that, and the fact that its pacing got better with Shadow Ball and now it can get to Shadow Ball consistently every 4 rollouts is a really big plus. So, while Licky, it's not the flashiest Pokemon, it's not the #1 on PvPoke Pokemon that beats everything, I think there's a lot of value in having a Pokemon that's very bulky and can be very dependable neutrally, and that's exactly what I think you get with Licky. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is genuinely so appreciated, so thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.